Hello, and welcome to another Read with Me. I am Isabel Bedell, and I'm here to read another amazing chapter of this amazing book, The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel. We are literally halfway through. This is chapter 10, day 11 of the Read with Me series of this book. And we are in this chapter called Look at Them. Okay. The last chapter that we read is really impactful, especially if you can relate to the fact that there are extremes in life. Whether you're an extreme spender and you're like, the money comes, but it just goes away. Or you're an extreme saver where you're like, the money's coming in, I feel fine, but I'm stressed out to even consider buying myself a shirt, okay? Or going on that trip, or going out to dinner, or whatever. Okay, those are the both extremes that he's talking about, and the way to really evaluate if it's worth the investment monetarily wise is if your time is gonna be spent well. For example, you can say, um, you buy a pair of shoes and you walk into that interview and then you get the job and then you then go to a dinner and then you actually get a better offer and then now you're able to negotiate your pay in the industry that you choose to be in, or like kind of like a waterfall effect. So sometimes, yes, maybe buying the shoes is unnecessary, but maybe making that purchase allows you to feel more confident in whatever it is that you're doing, and then you're able to escalate or just take things to the next level. So that could be a thing. On the flip side of that, the extreme saver might miss out on so many great opportunities in life, whether it's like finally seeing the Grand Canyon or like understanding what the United States looks like in a road map, versus just the map, or going to Thailand for the first time, or, looking at the pyramids in Mexico, all these different things. Like it's important to live. That's the point. It's to live because nobody's the time that we have on Earth is not necessarily it is limited, but it's not necessarily planned where we know the exact time and day of the finale. And what if it was tomorrow? What if it's in the next 2 days? What if it's in the next 2 minutes? You want to be able to live. That's the point. So now we're going to get into chapter number 10. It's called Look at Them, and it's all about jealousy, envy, and the priceless art of not caring what others think. I feel like this is going to be such a really good one, like a really, really great chapter, considering that we're in an age right now where, AI is everywhere. You don't know what's real, you don't know what's not real. You don't even know what the heck is going on, especially with social media being so accessible. Okay. This is going to be one of those where it could make us think and it could make us evaluate where we're going. So let's take a look. Buzz Aldrin became one of the most famous humans on the planet on July 20th, 1969, when he walked on the moon. It was an astounding feat, possibly the most incredible thing humans has ever accomplished. But Buzz was the second human to walk on the moon, stepping foot on the lunar surface minutes after Neil Armstrong. Fellow astronaut Michael Collins once explained Aldrin known to be cantankerous and for fame not wearing well on him. I think Buzz resents not being the first on the moon more than he appreciated being second. Jealousy is such a powerful thing. It's difficult to appreciate what you have and what you've accomplished because beyond a basic level of necessities, what you often want is to place yourself in a higher ring of the social hierarchy. So everything you've accomplished is relative to the other people, and you often crave most whatever someone else has, but you don't. That's important for spending money because for so many people, the question of whether you're buying nice things is actually, are these things nicer than other people's things? Or the question of whether your home is big enough is actually, is my home bigger than my neighbor's? It's understandable and it's unavoidable. A lot of life is competition for resources, for money, time, mates, attention, friends, land, where what matters is not how good you are, but how good you are relative to other people. Russian biologist Georgy Gauss became famous for an ecology concept now known as the Gauss's principle, which says that two species competing for the same limited resources cannot coexist. One will always outcompete the other until it's extinct. So, of course, it's natural to constantly look around at others, mildly paranoid, driven by what they have and you don't. But let me make a point that's critical, but easy to overlook in the art of spending money. There's a fine line between motivated by what others have and you don't, potentially good, and being envious of what they have and you want. That's always dangerous. Being motivated by what others can have, whether it be fun, their success, is like an effective form of advertising for those you didn't know existed. But being envious of others is a mental torture, like a contract you've made with yourself to be miserable. Few topics are as important because we all look around at others, potentially jealous of what they have, and set our spending desires accordingly. When entrepreneur Josh Kushner was in college, a wealthy friend took him to a Knicks basketball game. The seats, Kushner recalled, were astounding, courtside. Like you could literally smell the players. He was in awe. Then Kushner's friend looked 5 seats over and said, "My seats are good, but that guy's is are better." The author C.S. Lewis once defined this feeling so well in an essay called The Inner Ring. Life, he described, is often viewed as a series of social rings, and people's desire is to break into the next level, the more exclusive ring. If you're outside of a ring, nothing seems better than the thought of being on the inside. But once you're on the inside of the one ring, you realize you're not as nearly happy as you thought you would be, and you shift your attention to the next ring, where nirvana seems to reside. So much of life is like that, a constant struggle of viewing other people, of having something we want. And then, once you have that thing, you spot yet another person who has something new that you want. And around you go, ever disappointed. Lewis wrote, unless you take measures to prevent it, this desire is going to be one of the chief motives of your life, from the first day on which you enter your profession until the day when you are too old to care. And then he wrote that more than 80 years ago, he really wrote that more than 80 years ago. And it's so much worse today. JP Morgan's observation that watching your neighbors become rich undermines your financial judgment was so true when he said it more than a century ago. And then today, everyone is effectively your neighbor because on social media, it turns envy into comparison into an Olympic sport. When it comes to envy, jealousy, and spending money, let me share a few of the most important points to keep in mind. It's nearly impossible to win the status game. What's unique and inevitable, what's unique and inviolable in one period becomes common and bland in the next. Wired magazine founding executive editor Kevin Kelly once told me something I loved. If you want to know what lower income groups will aspire to spend their money on in the future, look at what the higher income uh, will aspire to spend their money on in the future. Look at what the higher income groups exclusively do today. European vacations were once the exclusive playground of the rich. Then they trickled down. Same with college. It was once reserved for the highest income groups, and then it spread. Same with investing. In 1929, the peak of roaring 20s bubble, 5% of Americans owned stocks. Virtually all of them were very wealthy. And then today, 58% of households own stocks in some form. Same with the two-car household. Lawn, Lawns, walk-in closets, granite countertops, six-burner stoves, jet travel, and even the entire concept of retirement. Part of the reason these products spread to the masses is that they got cheaper. But the reason they got cheaper is because there was so much demand from the masses. Hungered by their aspirations that pushed the companies to innovate new ways of mass production. And it shows why you can't permanently win this status game. What makes something high status is the fact that others don't have it. And once they eventually get their hands on that thing, it's no longer high status. Author Rob Henderson once noted that when he was a student at Yale, his classmates loved the Broadway play Hamilton. But once the play was released on Disney's streaming platform available to the masses, they hated it, found it boring, and stopped talking about it. The Yale students didn't care about the play as much as they cared that they could watch something others couldn't. Mhm. Hamilton was cool when it was exclusive to the social ring, much less so when anyone can watch it. People like to mimic those who appear to be living better lives, which can make those inviolable positions always feel uneasy and never satisfied because they are constantly being chased by others who covet their lifestyle and possessions. And that's why you can never truly win at the status game. It's a moving target. When you realize that status is a game that is never permanently won, you see why chasing it can be so unfulfilling. Being jealous of what others have and assuming your life would be better if you were like them is misleading you at not getting a full picture of their life. If you want to, if you, if I want what you have and I overlook that you want what someone else has, and therefore you feel exactly like I do, and that someone else wants something another person has, on and on and on, like a continuous change of social envy. And once you realize how never-ending the status and jealousy game can actually be, you realize that the only way to win is to stop playing. Being jealous of what others have is outsourcing your critical thinking to strangers. I like that. As natural as social comparison is, it's a depressing thing to ponder when you think about it. If you left me alone with my friends and family, people I love and whose attention I really want, I would form one set of desires. But when you expose me to a group of millions of strangers who I don't know and don't care about them, I form a completely new and grander set of desires. One of my favorite writers, Lawrence Yale, once wrote, envy is inversely correlated with the self-examination. The less you know yourself, the more you look to others to get an idea of your worth. Oof, what a line. But the more you delve into who you are, the less you seek from others, and the dissolution of envy begins. Wow. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's so smart. If you view one of the main goals of money as being independent, you start to view social comparison as a nemesis. And I want to fit into social groups that I choose, and spending money to look a certain way or occupy my time a certain way can be part of that. But once you anchor your expectations to an endless group of strangers, you are assuring yourself that you'll never be independent or even be satisfied. And here's an easy way to show what I mean. Telling someone that they are jealous is always an extreme insult because no one wants to admit that they were chasing what others have. They want to think that they're independent. And because deep down inside, independence is the actual goal. Envy is admitting to inferiority. The more you know yourself and become closer to what you want, the less you envy others, even when they have what you don't. FOMO, the fear of missing out. It is one of the most dangerous financial reactions that exists. FOMO is the intersection of social comparison and recklessness. You see someone with something that you want and lose all inhibition to get it. Having no FOMO might be the most important financial skill. Being immune to the siren song of other people's success, especially when the success is sudden, extreme, and caused by factors outside of their control, it is so powerful and important that it's practically impossible to do well over time without it. When strategizing, Dwight Eisenhower used, quote, Napoleon, who said a military genius is the man who can do the average thing when everyone else is around him is losing their mind. It's the same with money. The man who can do the average thing when everyone else around him is losing their mind, that's the game. FOMO's reckless, FOMO's recklessness masked in ambition. Ooh, I like that. You see someone else getting rich or living a great life and think, wow, if they can do it, I can too. That feels like good emotion. It feels like you're learning through the observation and following a data-driven path to success. But what's actually occurring is you are outsourcing your emotions to people who quickly windfall or flashy life has probably left them in a fragile emotional state to begin with. If you chase them, you might follow them right over the cliff. An astounding example of this in play. A study by three researchers once showed that if your neighbor wins a lottery, you are more likely to borrow money and go bankrupt in the future. Wow. Charlie Munger once said, someone will always be getting richer faster than you. This is not a tragedy. The idea of caring that someone is making money faster than you is one of the deadly sins. Remove FOMO from the equation, and what's left? You only care about your own financial goals. You only care about the opinions of those that you care about. You think long term and avoid getting sucked into the fads and bubbles. And you don't need much else to do well over time. Your propensity to be jealous of what others have can increase as you become wealthier. Your propensity to be jealous of what others have can increase as you become wealthier. If you can't afford rent or food, the desire for more money is existential and it has a very clear objective in the finish line. But if you're already financially comfortable, the desire for more money is mostly about status, which has no upper limit and it's insatiable. Researcher Sunia Luther once did a study of teenage mental health, drug and behavioral issues among poor inner city kids as a control group. She compared them to rich suburban kids who, in a shock to many, were comparatively much worse off by several metrics. Once One theory is that when rich kids are surrounded by other rich kids, the urge to climb the insatiable social ladder explodes. Free from the burdens of struggling to pay rent and buy groceries, your entire life becomes a quest to become richer and more popular than the person next to you. And I've seen this so often. When you have everything you need, you immediately shift to focusing on everything you might want, which is a never-ending list. And when you're poor, you want a stable paycheck and a small house. When you're rich, you want to be on Forbes' list of billionaires and have a private jet. The curve of social comparison grows exponentially with income. It sounds crazy, but sometimes I think the most status-starved and money-hungry people are rich celebrities because their social comparison group are ultra-rich mega celebrities. Realizing that your aspirations, and for some people, their entire sense of self-worth can anchor to the social group you are closest to and associate yourself with, which makes you think harder about who you choose to associate with. It brings me to the most important point. Be careful who you socialize with. Good advice for a lot of things in life is to remember that you are a reflection of the 3 or 4 people that you socialize with the most. If your friends have expensive taste, your expectations converge on that lifestyle. If your friend's idea of an awesome night is skipping rocks into a lake while chatting about life, your material expectations stay more grounded. Everything worthwhile in life is just the gap between expectations and reality, and when your frame of reference is rich, people try to impress each other. The gap can close quickly. I used to live in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and then I moved into the beach of Los Angeles. It was stunning how quickly my definition of success, rich, and luxury exploded once I became surrounded by rich people. Ambition can be a wonderful thing, but I'm sure it is a positive thing overall. A dentist or a small business owner can feel like they're swimming in wealth and success in one town, but like an improvised failure by comparison to the peers in another. Who you socialize with can have as big as an impact on your material happiness as how much money you make and how much you spend. When you think of it the way you, when you think about it that way, you choose wisely who you spend your time with. C.S. Lewis ended his essay by noting, "The quest of the inner ring will break your heart unless you break it." What breaking it meant was simple. Once you become satisfied with whatever ring you currently reside in, jealous of no one, envious of nothing, appreciative of what you have and what you're good at, grateful for friends and family, you are indeed snug and safe at the center of something which, seen from without, would look exactly like an inner ring. A lack of envy brings another gift, which is freedom. So let's tackle that. The sim and he ends it with the simplest formula for a pretty nice life. He says, how to live a good life is endlessly complicated, but sometimes the best way to understand a complicated topic is to pay close attention to the few big rules that carry the most weight. And let me propose one. The simplest formula for a pretty nice life is independence plus purpose. Independence plus purpose, independence plus purpose, independence plus purpose. The independence to do what you want, and the wisdom to want to do meaningful things. It's not everything, but boy, does it have, and boy, does it move the needle. There are many ways to be independent, being free from poor health, cultural influences, and an arbitrary boss. But financial independence is obviously a big one. Spending on independence can be the most wonderful thing money can buy, and it's more in your control than you might think. And that's what we're going to be covering in the next chapter. Independence, freedom, and overall being in control of your life. If you're interested in that, then we will go into the next chapter, chapter number 11, okay, where we're going to dive deeper, and it's called Wealth Without Independence is a Unique Form of Poverty. I'm excited for this, and I really do believe that independence and freedom, you have to go through the other part of like comparison and FOMO and, you know, wanting to, level up and also see what's out there. I think that's very important too, both extremes, like the very poor and the very rich. I think that's very, very important because there's something to be said when you feel like you're on top of the mountain and you feel like you're the wealthiest person in the room or when you're the smartest person in the room. I think that's not always true. And when it is, when it actually factually is, you might not be as independent or have the luxury of freedom because you're very dependent on everything else. So by tackling the financial part first, where everything is taken care of as far as like your life, your essentials, your shelter, your food, your essentials, basically to live. I think that's wherever you are in the world, it could be from, $500 all the way to $10,000, depending on where you live. So I think tackling that first is the primary goal, making sure that that freedom comes from like predictability of knowing that that's taken care of no matter what. And then everything else after that, it's more of like the independence factor. It's the freedom to do whatever it is that you want because the essentials are taken care of. If you have achieved that, put it in the comments like, I am financially free and I'm so grateful that I am. And if you're not, then that's another amazing thing where we're on this journey to help those that are not there yet to achieve that because that's what we believe in Let One Voice, our company here. It's personal and financial freedom. Personal and financial freedom. Being able to have both is the heartbeat of your soul, I believe. And if you agree with that, make sure to like and comment and share this video with whomever you like. I will see you in the next Read With Me, where we cover wealth without independence is a unique form of poverty. I love this book. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.